everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Cup Interviews. My name is Jillian Robinson. I am the associate producer here at Cup of Hemlock Theatre. And today I am joined by a wonderful flower backdrop. I thought I was going to be joined by two fabulous people. They are emerging from the foliage. Steph Holler and there he is, Paddy MacDonald. They have been donning our stages this past summer all across the province with their show, Too Much Information Improvised. Yay. And today we're going to unpack a little bit about their Fringe experience and about them as artists. And it also gives us an opportunity to catch up because I feel like this summer has been a whirlwind and it's nice to catch up with some friends. Yeah. So before we dive in, we're going to do the usual icebreaker. So do you have a cup with you today, friends? And what's in your cup, if so?
Well, I'm drinking boxed wine. It's Radio Boca. It gets written up in the Star every once in a while. And you know what? For a boxed wine, it's not bad.
Love it. You love a good boxed wine.
I'm drinking a grower's cider.
Yeah.
It's called Century Dry. It's pretty good. I discovered it recently and it's pretty good.
So
nice.
We're cheap drinkers, basically, is what we're saying.
Very cheap.
Hey, I love it. I love it. Scott, you have some like autumnal vibes too. I mean, I feel like good boxed wine and a cider, you know, bringing in like some fall vibes, I think. Like
Sure. My partner often will drink this with a couple of ice cubes though. So he's got a real sangria vibe about him.
Nice. Love it.
But you know what? Not for me. Today it's all about the fall.
Love it. Love it. I'm drinking to jump on the fall train. I guess my cup is kind of Halloween-y. This is Donatello, one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But inside is cinnamon coffee with some almond pumpkin spice creamer.
Coffee. It is past 6 p.m.
when we were recording this. I know I haven't had coffee today, so I thought I would treat myself and then be up till the wee hours because, you know, great.
Yeah, what a treat.
Anyways,
we're drinking.
Yeah. Enough about me. Let's dive right in. So tell us about yourselves, kind of taking you back to your kind of origins of how you both got into performing, the industry. You can even dabble into how you got into improv. Yeah. So I'll let you both kind of take the reins on that.
Sure. Well, I've been doing improv for about 7 years now. I took a course in London and it was like a Shakespeare specialized course. And I had a prof who went around the room one day and was like, so like, what do you all want out of this course? And I wasn't really doing a very good job of answering. I was like, I don't know. I want to be an actor, I guess. And he was like, do you want to just do improv? It kind of feels like you just want to do improv. And I was like, oh, maybe, because I always liked comedy. And so I gave it a try and it turns out that I really like it. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. It was kind of condescending the way this person talked to me, but I still thank him for being a rude dude.
A rude dude. Oh my God, I feel like that term should be coined. Hashtag rude dude.
Yeah.
It's so great. Yeah.
I've always loved performing, mostly making people laugh. Like I'm the youngest of 5. So when I was a kid, making my older siblings laugh was like primo. That's what I wanted to do more than anything. And now I just try to get as many people to laugh as I possibly can in any given moment. But I moved to Toronto about 10 years ago with the intention of kind of doing sketch comedy. And that's what I did for a while. And I was like writing sketch comedy. And then I started doing musical comedy. And then while I was focusing on my musical comedy, like being on in front of people live, playing with, you know, you'd have to banter sometimes. And I was like trying to get better at bantering and coming up with jokes on the spot. And I decided about 4 years ago, I decided to take more improv lessons, more improv-y kind of stuff. And that was actually Steph's recommendation. And that's kind of how we met actually. And why we decided to work together after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't on purpose. We have our sordid history that I'm sure we'll get into. But yeah, I recommended an improv class to Paddy that I was planning on taking. But there were several times and we ended up in the same slot.
Yes.
Okay. Look at that. It's like destiny. So yeah, Paddy, you were saying a little bit of what you did before improv too. Steph, before you did this class in the UK in London, you said, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you doing prior to that? Was that kind of your first step into the arts or?
No, I've been performing since I was a kid. I did performing arts camp every year and was obsessed with musicals, loved an Oliver, loved an Annie. Anything with an orphan child, I was super into. Anne of Green Gables, love. And so I loved doing that. I went to an arts high school and then I tried to, I guess, pursue what I thought to be like a real career in university, but I kept on just going and spending all of my time at the Theatre Society and ended up dropping out, taking like a 1-year theater course and was like, oh, I want this. And so from there, that's where the short courses came in. So I've kind of just been cobbling together an education ever since.
Cool.
It's pretty exciting.
No, I love that. So many hats, so many like paths that got you to where you are right now. Super, super exciting. Okay, great. So let's unpack the large adventure that the two of you have just kind of stepped off of the adventure train from. So this past summer, your show, TMII for short, did a Fringe Tour. So tell us all about that, I guess, in your own pace. But if you want to let us know a little bit about the sort of foundation of TMII and the show, like the venues that you guys went to, I'll kind of, the floor is yours.
For sure. Well, the show itself is a kind of weird, fun, emotional, vulnerable adventure based in comedy. The fun thing is 7 years ago, Paddy and I used to date. How is that right now? For how many years?
We're close to 8. We're close to 8 years.
And it was short-lived and very messy.
Yes. Yes. Very messy, overlapping time. Steph was dating my best friend, left him for me, wasn't quite ready for that, and kind of like your typical 20-somethings just mixing it up. And it ended not with a bang, but with like a lot of random hookups and then not seeing each other for a long time. And we never talked about it. We never spoke about it. And we had but for some reason, we kept hanging out. After everything was done and Steph found a new partner and I was dating other people, and we would just occasionally get together for a drink or for dinner or even like a show and to see a show, not perform together. And like I said earlier, it was like we ended up in this improv class together. And then it was Steph's idea to be like, we should do duo improv together. Just go to jams, go to, anything that was doing a duo set. We would perform there. And in 2019, I got accepted. I applied to the Toronto Fringe for 2020. I had nothing. I just applied to apply. I kind of did that yearly, was constantly putting my hat in, and I was never on the lottery and never got it. And then in 2019, I got it. And it was like, oh, so we are working together now. Let's do a show. And we were like, well, what's something we could do?
That's something that makes like our group unique.
Yeah. What's the elephant in the room?
What can we talk about on stage that like will distinguish us from other duos? No offense to other duos and no offense to other improv duos, but we wanted basically a hook. And it was like, well, there is this one thing we've not talked about.
Yeah. And that was a weird conversation.
Very weird. There's a recording of it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
And it was out on the table and then went like, okay, so now we go be funny, I suppose. So yeah, we started going to jams and like giving this intro to people and about how we used to date and then just opening up the floor and saying, do you have any questions for us? And then we tell stories about our relationship based on those questions. And from there, we would do some improv. And that's kind of still the core of the show at this point.
Yeah. The initial idea is still the same, but that first show was very different from what we ended up doing this summer. Because,
Right. Okay.
Yeah, what ended up happening was we only got to perform it a few times live. And then,
before March 2020.
Yeah, March 2020 hit. And, I think we did make a little bit of lemonade out of the lemons we were given because it gave us way more time to work on the show.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it's funny, I think about this all the time because we did so much work on Zoom and then in parks, performing in parks, doing and then back to Zoom and then limited and in closed space and all these iterations of this show and working on it. And a lot of the bulk of the work that ended up on stage was done weeks before we did it live in Ottawa this summer. Yeah. So much was cut out, so much was added literal weeks before. And we were it is a different show now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Structurally, it's a different show. So it's just so funny how that, I feel that happens a lot.
Right.
You spend so much time preparing, so much time doing all this work, and then you actually get there and you actually do the nitty gritty of piecing it together, and you're oh, this is completely different.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So, for example, I was just going to say something that we started adding in midway through our run even was we gave the audience the opportunity to ask for reenactments.
Oh my gosh.
We started, so we'd be okay, so we're going to open up the floor again. Would you like anything specific answered? Do you want more details about something? Would you like something reenact? And so we got some really weird scenes out of that, including one where I don't know how appropriate we are supposed to be on this. Just a question for you, Jill.
You can, we usually say one swear word, but we haven't really entertained any, I would say, nay.
Okay.
That's
so
our
the
show.
rating of our show.
But you can swear. So
we cursed like sailors during the show. But, I'll keep it to one swear.
Well, there was one evening where we did the show and Paddy's family was in the audience. And we ended up reenacting a hookup, which was awkward and funny.
Yeah, it was funny.
You're welcome, all of Paddy's family.
Yeah.
This is so cool to hear too. So just a peek behind the curtain, for viewers or listeners watching this interview and the first time sort of hearing about Steph and Paddy and everything too. But it's so neat to hear the evolution of this project for you guys. And then also that it evolved from the top of Fringe throughout, because I had the chance of seeing you guys do an iteration of it. I think you guys were looking into grant writing and it was kind of a social to kind of get people out to come see the show. So I got to see it then. And then I was lovingly welcomed and invited into one of your guys' rehearsal spaces too. So I got to see the show again. So obviously it being improv, it was different scenarios, but the same kind of skeleton. And then from those 2 times of me seeing it, and then this summer, I actually didn't get a chance to see you guys perform it at Toronto Fringe, but Ryan and Mackenzie of Cup of Hemlock Theatre did. And on our Fringe roundup, I remember unpacking the show and being oh my God, this is so cool. The stuff that Ryan is bringing up, I don't remember that happening, or oh, that's changed. So to kind of go along, I feel I should have a foam #1 fan finger and be I love Steph and Paddy so much and they've done the show different each time. Woo! It's really cool to see. And I would imagine too, you guys it's such vulnerable personal stuff that could come up. But as artists, I would imagine it's kind of, is it refreshing that it's kind of different each time, that it's yeah, how is that for you guys, on your end?
I would say yes and no, personally.
There are pros and cons.
So the yeses are that, you're not doing the same show every night, and you're not you can't fall into a rhythm because there is a vague rhythm, but you can't really rely on just like having the lines or anything like that. And yeah, you have to find ways to make things. Nothing against a theater.
Yeah.
At all. That show has its own set of challenges. But it definitely is fresh. The thing that is difficult is that you have to make up a whole show.
Yeah.
There were definitely some stretches. So, Hamilton Fringe was great. We had a really great time in Hamilton, really great crowds, and people really seemed to dig it. But it was 10 shows, and we only had one day off in between. So I think we did 6, and then we did 4. And I remember during that run, I think we both looked at each other like, man, wouldn't it be nice if we just had some lines we could read or have sketches we could roll out? And it's just like, there's a bit of fatigue, but that's just part of how you do improv. It's why you realized this was before Hamilton. This was actually while we were in London London, Ontario. We realized how important warm-ups, or at least I realized how important warm-ups were to the process. So like meditating if you can, and just getting the energy up, getting creativity flowing, doing lots of games before, really important, because there's no break. There's just the two of us on stage the whole time. That we cannot walk. Well, we can walk off the stage.
I got sick once during a performance and I had to leave Paddy.
Okay. People are like, is this part of it? And you're like, we made it part of it.
What can you do?
I was either going to throw up there or somewhere else. So
she made the right call.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, love that. So I feel like you're already dabbling into the different Fringe locations that you did TMII. So can you just take us through the trajectory of the summer? Like, what was the schedule? Where from the top of the Fringe ball getting rolling to where you are today? What were the pit stops?
Yeah. So I'll start even in 2021. We did the Hamilton Fringe and we did London as well. Cool. London Fringe, Fringe Binge. So the Hamilton Fringe, we were one of the only live productions in that one. In 2021, we did a delivery format. So we went around to people's houses and
I see.
Performed it in their backyards, which was very cool. And then at London Fringe Binge, we were at the Palace Theatre, which was a 500-seat venue that people were not comfortable coming back to quite yet, which was really fun in such a large venue.
Sure. Yes. Been there, done that. Yeah.
And then this year, we went to Ottawa to begin in June. That was followed by Toronto. And then after that, we went back to Hamilton at the Staircase. And then we went to Kingston. And so, start with Ottawa. What was Ottawa like?
It was one of the great things about Ottawa was all of it was at Arts Court, which is a refurbished, and literally every single show happened in that building. So what was so great is off the top, we got to see a ton of shows.
Cool.
I think because all you got to do is, it's in 5 minutes. Well, it's just upstairs. However, it's built with the same construction as a courthouse that used to jail and execute people. So it's constructed as a maze-like. So it's really easy to get turned around. Plus, it is uber haunted. I had a couple of encounters.
Okay.
There was
unpack, please.
There was this.
If it's too traumatizing, you don't have to.
No, I've gone to several hours of therapy. I'm good. So our venue was called Club Saw, and it was right next to. They kept the jail cells intact in the. They still do ghost walks there.
Apparently, you can pay to spend the night in them as well.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody would do that, but.
And sorry, did you say Club Saw?
Yes.
Yeah, and I believe that.
So already, Club Saw. I've seen the first Saw, and what you're describing is exactly what I'm picturing with these cells and.
And that specific venue, I believe, was the space of the final execution ever in Canada.
Yeah.
So we're performing on a pretty cool stage.
Yeah, and I think we were just kind of flyering, seeing the show, and I think we were about to leave or something. And I was looking at this jail cell and I said, hey, this would be good for a story, because we were always kind of like coming up with content to put on our social media. And I was like, hey, Steph, you should look at this. And one of the cells was open. I looked away for 5 seconds and then it was closed. And I was the only one there. It was a dark hallway and I was like, I'm going to go now.
Yep.
Why did it close on its
Yep.
own? And yeah, that wasn't the only time we had like a weird encounter.
My favorite one really is moments before we were about to go on. Like the music starts and everything, and we get ready to go on. Paddy goes out on stage, and I was behind a door. I go to open the door, and it was locked. And our tech afterwards was like, "That door was open. I promise. I'm so sorry." And we were like, "It's okay." They don't want us here.
Someone was like, you're not doing this footage down here. You're not going on stage. Okay.
Yeah. There was just like weird things like that, which were just
keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it was,
definitely.
Ottawa was really cool too. And honestly, that was the start for a lot of other artists. Like,
cool, yeah.
We met a couple people who were like, oh, we're all going to Toronto next.
Yeah.
So we met people there and we were very friendly.
Shout out to Levity Theatre, who hung out with us the whole time, pretty much.
Yeah.
They had a show called Unmatched, and so it kind of felt like a sister show. It was about that date. It was awesome.
Yeah, they were so incredibly kind, and we just became friends by the time we like got to Hamilton. We just like we hung out one time at this outdoor venue and we just started performing in front of just the security staff, and we really such a pleasant memory. But yeah, Ottawa was really great. It was really solid. My first time really like in Ottawa, so it was a really. However, we were staying in Gatineau, and that was
nice,
beautiful. It was a beautiful spot, and yeah, that was our first little taste of the Fringe Tour live full capacity thing. And yeah, it was really great. Honestly, a very well run, tight ship. Everything, like I said, everything was there. So it felt like a real community, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Ottawa was our first stop, then Toronto. We performed at the Toronto Extra Space, which was again a great venue. We had 3 different stage managers, which was pretty cool. So it was kind of fun to put together like our spec for the run of the show, because it's improvised. The tech has a very unique role in the show. So basically what we do is we provide a whole list of sound cues and just give the general vibe of the sound cue in the title of like happy beginning, romantic sting, like that kind of thing. And if they see a moment in the show where they think that would work, then they have full carte blanche. They're more than welcome to throw it in or not. So they have a lot of creative control. So it was kind of interesting to work with all of these different people and say like, hey, you want to try your hand at improv, basically? Like, they have to be very willing to just like fail, or, they're like no bad decisions, honestly. So fail is maybe not the best word, but
yeah, like my favorite was playing. So some of my favorite moments that we would have is telling someone to put on something, and sometimes they would do it, but sometimes it wouldn't work. And like they couldn't get there in time. And honestly, those are gifts. When it doesn't go to your plan, you just have to keep going. You've got no other place to go. And that's where you find the real meat of any comedic scene. It's like if you stumble on stage in improv, well, now we're stumbling, and that's just what we're going to do. It's part of it. And yeah, honestly, all of the texts, because by the time we got to Hamilton, I'm skipping a little bit, but the Hamilton people who did our tech were improvisers. So that was a completely different animal altogether. And it was, but it's such a treat because it's, keeping it fresh, having it go new every time, having someone who's doing it completely different in every venue keeps us on our toes. And because by the time we got to Kingston, there was a person who just thought that they just played music in every scene. So we were like, okay, so we have to work with that.
It's a musical now.
Pretty much. And like no shade whatsoever. It was just like every Fringe was different from the technical point of view. Every single one. We didn't have any kind of consistency there, but which is perfect for an improv show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's thanks for sharing that like extra peek behind the curtain. I feel like I wouldn't even have thought that was kind of another revolving door that's just added to the process. That's just like, that's a really cool extra layer of theater almost too, right? Of like the sound kind of being another character that's kind of coming in when it wants to or leaving when it wants to. And then not only that, but having it operated by different people. Like that's like super neat.
Oh, for sure. Well, and also like just kind of for lighting as well, just being like, okay, we designed 3 looks, and when we stand here, or maybe even if we talk as ourselves, do the first look.
Right.
If we're in a scene, do the second look. If we're gonna be wrapping up, do the third look. And
cool.
So it was a lot of, we really are just so grateful for the people who helped us throughout the whole process, because couldn't have done it without our lovely techs and stage managers.
Yeah.
Of course. Shout out.
Into the void.
Yes.
Yeah, because just stopping and thinking about it right now, there were a lot of people from Ottawa to Kingston. I was like, wow, that is a lot of people that worked with us.
Yeah.
And it's just a privilege, really, to
Yeah.
be able to work with all those people. It was great. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
For sure. So of the 2022 summer Fringe tour, did you guys have any standout like favorite one? I know you just said like Ottawa was really lovely because of the community, like all of them. It sounds like you guys had a blast in either one. Was there like a standout show or a standout memory, or was it kind of just a mixed bag of fun all around?
Well, I would say there was a show in Lucky, and also just like super fun to do. It was one of our biggest audiences that we had throughout the whole run. So we had like something like 70 people there, and which was a lot for us.
Yeah.
And before we started the show, we were flyering outside, and we came across this one person, and we were like, hey, come to your show. This is the premise. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm coming to see your show. And we were like, oh, that's awesome. Like, do you have a show in the Fringe? Kind of just chatting a little bit with this person. And she was like, no, I'm a reviewer. And we were like, oh, okay. And Paddy goes,
I was like, oh, what publication are you with? Now, keep in mind, just a slight digression. We learned that while you flyer, it's not enough just to say, come see my show. It's not enough to say, like, I'm doing a comedy show. Here it is. You want to make a connection with people.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a good sales technique, but it's also just like Fringe is independent artists. We're honestly just talking to people, getting to know them. It's a fun thing to do. And most people who are in those spaces are so open and social. And the people who aren't, they just walk away, and you don't take any offense to it because you're flyering. We get it.
Yep.
But I was in that headspace, and I went, oh, you're coming to see our show. Oh, you're reviewing our show. What publication are you with? And she said, do you really want to know? And I was like, good point. And I was like, great. And it got a little awkward, and she walked away. And I was like, well, here we go. And then she was working, she did our Toronto Star, which was one of the bigger publications who came to review our show. And
I knew who she was already.
Yeah, Steph knew better not to tell me, because it's just
added that layer of, we don't need this right now.
You got to get into the headspace, and you got to get centered, and having any extra bits and pieces on top can put a little stress on person.
Absolutely.
And we just so happened to have a really great night that night. It's cool. Improv, you just don't know if the audience is going to be into it. And it was just one of those nights where somebody asked us, and this does come up pretty often, where it's like, what do your current spouses think about the show? Are they cool with it? And I got up and just started improvising what's an answer, right? It's, all conversations are improvised in some respect, but it was the monologue portion. And I said, it's actually, they don't really care about our past at all. Like they don't. It's water well under the bridge. We're both happily married. Mm-hmm. And the part that they have problems with is that they don't like improv. And it was a real huge, it just was a big laugh. It got everyone, going, if I may, sing my praises here. It was something that made the night special. It gave it a little bit of a different twist, and she put it in her review. We got a really good review, and it was just luck. At the end of the day, it was just luck that she came to that show, because, like I said, it's improv. Sometimes it doesn't go well, and that's just
most of the times it's great. We have a great time.
Most of the time we're having so much fun.
Yeah, we're very, very good at improv.
Great.
It is. I can say, someone who has seen it twice and would like to see it over and over again. It is a very unique, awesome slice of pie. That's an image I'm just going to toss in there.
Sure.
And it's a different flavor of pie each time. I'm going on a pie tangent. Let's get back on track. Cool. No, guys, that's awesome. And how cool is it to kind of get that experience in Toronto too, right? You guys are both living in Toronto at the moment too, right? So in the neighborhood, love that so much. And I love hearing that, because I was so irked that I couldn't see your Fringe version of the show, but I was like, woo-hoo. I do remember reading all the reviews and everything too. So yeah, well deserved, well earned. So, okay. So tons of fringes, tons of performance within those fringes. You've unpacked that. Hello, the tech sound stage manager person was part of the bit.
Oh, yeah.
So can you kind of also this is coming directly from me, but also our viewers, listeners know, what was the production side of a fringe, I guess fringe and then also a fringe tour like? What are the things that, especially because this show is just the two of you, were there certain task jobs that you delegated to cover, or was it a team thing? Did you have someone helping you along? I'm throwing so many things at you, but what's the production of a fringe show and a fringe tour like the production side of it? Yeah.
Sure. Well, in terms of rehearsal and stuff, we had a coach help us throughout the process, and we had a bunch of guests. So our main coach was Hannah Hollybeck, who is an incredible improviser and comedian, clown. She is and she was very gentle with us. We often needed a lot of hand holding throughout and so she was great. Beyond Hannah, we also worked with Ken Hall, who is also a clown. Umbrella Academy, ever heard of it? He's really an incredible performer and such a great teacher. We worked with Nicole Passmore, who is, again, incredible performer, so funny, can drop into a character in a second, and really taught us, I think, a lot about being about our group dynamic. And then Kirsten Rasmussen, who taught us a lot about confidence, I would say, and coming out on stage with an air of knowing what you're doing. Because we were often being like, hey.
Yeah.
And then disappearing into
morphing into the background, right?
Yeah. So some great people to work with. In terms of the production side of things, we would have days where we'd work together on that. We'd kind of set aside, today is a production day. We would kind of have a list of these are all of the emails that we have to send. Cool. This is what we have to do in order to work on our budget today and stuff. And so it was a lot of I would love to shout out the generator. There's a website called it's the APT generator site. So it's Artistic Producer Training. It's based through Toronto. And they basically have this checklist that you can access on their website that gives you kind of a timeline breakdown of 6 months out, you should be doing this. 5 months out, you should be doing this. But at the end, I'll actually find it so that we can put it in the show notes.
Oh my gosh, that'd be such a great resource. Yeah.
Because it really was a thing that I relied heavily on, I would say. And they give you a lot of resources as well. Where if you're looking to find a model for your budget, here's a bunch of models, that kind of thing are pretty incredible. The people who run the generator website. And the program. There's a program also that they offer, I think every other year for emerging producers.
Okay, yeah, we will definitely include all that information. I'm enthralled. I'm sitting here being the organizer and guide poster in me is whoa, this exists. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was a great resource. But otherwise, I would say we were first time producers,
Yeah.
Okay.
so lots of learning curves. What do you want to say about
I will say Steph did a lot, a lot of work. I'm not, but no excuses. She did an incredible job and did a lot of emailing, admin, printing, designing, poster. I gave input where I could. I was more of the runner. I drove a lot when I could.
Mhm.
And I tried my best to network as much as I could in person, but Steph did a lot of it. And in terms of like learning curves, it was like you, I've done shows like this before with other producers and no shade to them whatsoever, but Steph did an incredible job compared. Like it's just, it really was like ahead of the, like thinking ahead of the curve, thinking outside of the box and stuff like that, like a real talent. And also our social media too. I helped with ideas and filming and stuff like that. But we've had some pretty good success on there, great success. One of our reels got like well over 1 million views. And it
That's
was,
awesome.
yeah, and it was just steps, keeping up with it, you know, doing all of the things I had no idea about. Like
Yep.
talking to different people, 10 people a day, commenting, make sure it's not just an emoji, making sure there's a
Mhm.
message.
It's more
All
than
those
3
things.
words. Is that right?
Yeah, more than 3 words, and yeah, not just emojis.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was like I helped where I could, but
Yeah.
it was a lot. And like tried to support wherever I could.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
So yeah, it was there are I guess what I will say is it's two of us making up a show and two of us doing all this extra stuff
Yeah.
and Steph doing a lot of extra things and also having a job and traveling around. It was a lot, but it was I wouldn't really change it either, weirdly enough.
Yeah,
Like I learned a lot from it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
It was quite an experience. I would say that like in the my next time producing, definitely have a foundation that I'm looking forward to working off of. And getting thrown more curveballs and see what that happens. As there is never not curveballs in theater.
Yes. Yep. Amen. But also just like kudos to splitting, like doing an improv show while being the artist and the producer, right? Like not saying none of it would be easy to have to split the brain if it was just like a script, right? Like a scripted piece or whatever, then it's like you're stepping into artist there and then you're also producer. But with your genre being improv, it's like you can't step into the reliable sort of artist side of the brain because it's always changing and always different. So I would imagine it would add an extra layer of dissonance between the producing side, between the Joe job side of the brain. So the fact that both of you were basically an octopus and had a tentacle and like all the different things and created what you created and did so many fringes and had such awesome feedback, both from yourselves and from audiences. Like, kudos to the two of you. That's like such an awesome success. And to hear, like, I was shocked you saying you're both first time producers. Like, kudos. Like, that's amazing. Like, yeah, again, where's my foam finger? I feel that's like the theme of this episode. I'm like, I really like Steph and Paddy. I'm also a really big fan of Steph's social media prowess. Yes. Great. So let's pivot going forward. Do you guys have any projects upcoming? This going to be together or as individuals? Like what does the fall look like for the two of you, or what does the upcoming year? If you are taking a step back from the arts, what's kind of in the works for the two of you, independently or together? Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm currently the social media coordinator for TYT. This is a great company that Jill has done a production several times with.
Yeah. And Steph is our phenomenal stage manager. Just have to say another hat for Steph. Yep. Okay.
I did, in fact, stage manage that one. So with social media coordinating for TYT, I also offer, I'm just going to plug this, I offer free social media optimization sessions for artists. So if you're feeling like you are an artist who just like doesn't get social media, or like you want to put a new spin on your profile, hit me up. I'll spend an hour with you and we'll make your bio pop and we'll talk about what kind of content we can make for you.
So you'll be getting a text from me. Cool. Love that. The plug's already working. Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing right now. It's a little bit, I currently regrouping and taking a little bit break after such a busy summer.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm leaning into the social media marketing side of theater and producing.
Love that.
Yeah, I'm doing some workshops with high schools, teaching kids improv, like just very fundamental stuff about character and game, and even simple things like eye contact and things like that on stage. It's a lot of fun. I'll be doing that shortly. And then other than that, just auditioning for some things. I was just auditioning for a show, blah, blah, blah. Normal acting stuff. And then who knows? Question mark. But excited for the future.
Cool. The fundamentals of improv, emphasis on the fun, I would imagine too. Of course. Sorry, we talked about Rapunzel. The puns are coming out in me again. You know, it's
Rapunzel.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. That's so great to hear from both of you. And yeah, so of course we'll pop any information, Steph, you said about the social media thing. We'll pop that down below as a link or where folks can kind of reach out to that. Amazing. So at this point, is there anything like outstanding that the two of you feel you would like to share about the process? Or maybe this one, I'm kind of just going to go out on the whim. If people are looking into wanting to get into improv or even just like the comedy side of the arts, I would say both of you are quite experienced and professional on those sectors. I may be biased with my foam finger, but what would be like kind of advice or like a trajectory that you would give, say someone like coming out of high school or someone coming out of like a theater program or something, if they want to specialize a little bit more in improv or comedy?
Yeah, I would say there are a lot of great foundational classes that you can take through Bad Dog, Second City, the Assembly. They all have kind of different paths that they take. So I would say like Bad Dog is really focused on like finding your voice and also making it. Assembly is really focused on game, making sure it's a more regimented version of improv, but it's really helpful. And so if you like structure, that's a great place to go. Second City gives you a lot of info on premise prov, so it kind of gives you a real straight line into sketch writing, which is really awesome as well. But my number one piece of advice is find a place where you feel comfortable getting out on stage. Stage time is the most valuable thing that you can get in an improv setting. So going to jam and making friends. Jams are great spaces to meet people, class, things like that. The Assembly has like class shows once a week, every Tuesday at Comedy Bar. So that's a great place to go see some improv from students and introduce yourself,
Yeah, of course. Great.
Yeah,
Paddy?
everything Steph said, 110% agree. And yeah, I think in the past, I've like if you see somebody on stage and you're like, man, so cool. Like if you reach out and just say like, hey, can I pick your brain about things? Most people are very, be like, yeah, what do you want to know? And then sometimes it's like, hey, do you want to come up and join us? Cool,
Yeah.
That when I first moved here, there was a person called Chantel Renee, who's still a good friend of mine, who I just wanted to pick her brain about sketch comedy and improv. And she was just like, well, why don't you like come and like hang out with us for a bit? And then we started writing sketches together, and I did that for a few years. And that kind of got me introduced to other people in the community, sketch comedy. The thing about sketch comedy and improv, it's everyone does everything. But it was, at the time, I never did improv. I just did sketch. But it was one of those things where I was like, oh, I'm really glad I did that. I'm glad I met this person. I'm glad that they introduced me to other people, like-minded people. And for a while, it was just great. And still friends to this day. She's fantastic.
Fabulous.
Like I said, I don't do it often, but the time I did do it, I was very happy with the results. It was really cool.
Cool. Love that. Wow. You keep getting swallowed by the flower, Steph. The flower's getting hungry. No, these are awesome tokens of information for folks for sure. And again, we'll pop any links to the different companies that Steph just mentioned too, so that folks can kind of get on this path and trajectory too, if comedy calls to you. So yes. Yes, of course. Especially the years we've had too. We all need a little comedy sprinkled in there.
Yeah.
Here and there too. I'm even finding too, a lot of my friends in the industry, that have kind of balked at comedy or don't like improv. You're seeing a lot of folks want to do that now because they're just itching for something light, like comedy. Also, I've always found comedy and improv like such an easier way to network, like through that, right? Of going, network isn't easy, right? We'll call a spade, but there is something to, right? I don't know if it's just like the ice is already broken, that it's such a kind of welcoming, warm space. And so kind of having folks gravitate to that right now makes sense too. So so these are definitely good things to have in the back pocket. So from a social media point of view, to keep up with the two of you and what your personal trajectories, where they go, where can we keep up with you? I'll let you plug, whatever, any projects or any handles, any social handles.
Yeah, well, definitely give too much info on Instagram. So yes, too much info on Instagram. We have the same handle and if you're interested in a personal consult from me, you can reach out to the TMII account on Instagram. I'm on there still, and my personal account is personal. Don't reach
Love
out.
it. Sounds good. Paddy?
Ditto. Too much info, and don't contact me.
Love it. Show all the love to Too Much Info Too Much Info Improv. Too Much Info Improv. There it is.
We decided, we made a bet. We decided between the two of us, what is the worst handle we could come up with?
No, it's honestly the quickest. And I feel like my brain is usually always there. It's just the flower, the eye in the flower is looking at me and it's like, are you going to say it correctly? But we'll pop it all down below. So
his name's Gizmore, and he's controlling my mind right now.
Of course, right?
Is it tucked back in?
Yeah.
Nice. I see. So it's really the flower that's been giving all of the answers this whole time, just using your bodies as avatars.
Yeah.
Love
live Gizmore. Long live Gizmore. He will be spreading.
Okay. Love that. Before this gets too weird, we'll wrap it. No, this has been such a fabulous combo for the two of you. Thank you so much. Honestly, again, selfishly using these platforms, this space too, to catch up with the two of you. Last time I think I was in the space with you with the piece would have been in the spring.
Yeah, quite a while ago.
And then top of the summer, Steph and I wrapped Rapunzel, but aside from that, it was kind of just all systems go on our own independent ends. So glad that we were able to regroup today. And so many, I feel like I should have a notepad in front of me with little check marks that you both have mapped out. So we love that. And I guarantee our listeners and viewers would love it too. So we'll pop all of our handles down below. And as always, folks, if you want to show some love to Cup of Hemlock Theatre, if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and comment, like, subscribe. And if you're listening to this on podcast, go ahead and give us a star review as well. And follow us at Cup of Hemlock Theatre at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, what have you. If you want to catch up with me, Jill, it's Jillian.Robinson96. Yep, there it is. I love all of this assistance. On that note, let's cheers, friends. Everyone stay safe, stay healthy, and laughter. Just laughter, all the laughter. Cheers. And see you next time as they morph into the flower.
Is more is love.